Thailand or Puerto Rico? You decide. According to pageant chatter all over the internet, Thailand and Puerto Rico are in many people's top 5, honestly mine included, so I thought it would be great to look at both of their performances prior to Miss Universe. Let's start out with the swimsuit competition. First, let me say it's going to be a little bit difficult to compare performances because the staging is different, the camera angles are different, and if they were the same, obviously a much more level playing field, and we would have a better idea of how these ladies would actually perform at Miss Universe. First, let me just say that both of these ladies are very worthy of a semifinalist placement, in my opinion, if we are just judging their swimsuit performances. Now, if we look at the differences between the two, I believe that Antonia was a little bit more reserved versus Carla was really projecting a lot of energy for swim. So in my opinion, I think that the right amount of energy is very essential at Miss Universe. Perfect example, look at Celeste last year, Miss Universe Philippines. She was in my predictions for the crown. She was one of my personal favorites. I still love her, but she didn't make it past that semifinal cut. I was at Miss Universe and I did feel from the audience perspective, and I was in the front row last year, that she did not have the normal energy that she always brings to the stage. So if I have to compare these two performances, I feel like Carla's energy, I don't think it's too much, but I think that it might slightly outplace Antonia's. Now, I do think that a lot of that had to do with the audience cheering for her, and you could see that she was loving it. Hopefully she'll get that same type of reaction at Miss Universe this year, and she'll be able to maintain this type of energy. So when it comes to swim, I would give this one to Carla. Now let's take a look at their evening gown performances. Oh my gosh, they were both incredible for evening gown, right? And the gowns certainly didn't hurt, okay? Now, both of these ladies looked fabulous in their wardrobe, their styling, all of that was there. I'm expecting that that's what they're gonna bring to Miss Universe. I don't feel like they're gonna have an issue with their styling. So we have to really look at their performances. So when we look at Anne, she had much more of a serious expression, a little bit sexier. And then when we look at Carla, she was still keeping her smile for gown, the smile that we saw during the swimsuit competition. And here's where I think Anne now has that edge if we're looking at evening gown performances. At Miss Universe, those facial expression changes and their subtleties are kind of everything, and that I think is especially true for the evening gown competition. And so those subtle facial expression changes really make all the difference, and the timing of those. So I think that both women looked incredible. The walks are there, the poses are there, everything is there, but I think that Antonia is edging out Carla because of the facial expressions here. Now we have to talk about their onstage questions, and for that I'm going to refer to some clips from my recaps of both of their national pageants. From this statement, education is foundation of life. What are other things that you also consider as foundation of life, and why? She said, there are many things we consider the foundation of life, but what's more important is the quality of life. And the most important thing is to be happy and do what you love and give back to the community whenever it is needed. No matter what you do in your life, strive to achieve and be of force for good, once again, for the people around you, and make a positive impact. Be a light of glory and never do anything without a good intention and 100% of your heart. So she got the crowd going with this answer, rightfully so. This was great. She also started to waver a little bit at the end, but did a great job wrapping everything up so that she wasn't just lingering in this answer. Very, very strong, great delivery. Honestly, great answer just overall. Number 31. One of the biggest issues we are facing, it might not sound big to you, is the act of giving back to the community. It doesn't take much to reach out a lending hand to give back to those who are struggling every day to have food on the table and a roof over their heads. So as Miss Universe Thailand, I will encourage you to give back wherever you can and use social media as a platform to raise awareness about the issue, to gain more movement, and to use your voice to speak. She also got caught off slightly, but her answer sounded more like a definitive ending. So in this one, she talks about giving back. Like, that's the issue that we all need to address. And I think the distinction here with her answer was that she also said, like, as Miss Universe Thailand, I'll be encouraging you of this, and I'm going to encourage you to use social media as well so we can all address this problem. I feel she did a good job overall with this question. Her delivery of it was great. She didn't get cut off too badly at the end, so she had a more complete sounding answer, and she had an overall fantastic performance. Her question was, if you had the opportunity to work hand in hand with any government agency on the island, which would it be and why? She said, the government agency with which I would work, or rather with which I am currently working, is ASSMCA. I work on the PAS line as a crisis manager and work day by day for suicide prevention in Puerto Rico. We have to understand that Puerto Rico is going through a mental health crisis, and we must prioritize solutions to resolve this situation. Fantastic answer. I love that she had the opportunity not just to say, here's who I would work with, but here's who I am working with. Okay. So this question was essentially made for her. She was prepared, but what I really love is how she delivered this answer, and this gets me very excited for Miss Universe. Right now, there is a young girl or woman watching you who feels weak, not enough, afraid to take her place and fight for her happiness. What would you say to her? Matias was next, and she said, I would tell you to find the courage to seek professional help. Right now, we are experiencing situations in our country that increasingly affect our mental health. In the past, I experienced difficult situations related to mental health. I sought help. I empowered myself with different tools. That is what I seek to do through my organization and my message, so that others do the same. So my message is, look in the mirror, seek help, get inspired, because the universe needs the power that lives within you. Also, very inspiring, direct message. Now, she had the opportunity here to share a little bit about her personal experience and struggles with mental health. And if you listen to the initial question, you could assume that a young woman who feels weak or maybe not worthy of pursuing her dreams also may be experiencing issues regarding her mental health. And that could be a common experience for many people. So I like that she used some of her personal story in this experience, but here's the key here. She also referenced mental health, yes, in her first onstage question. And I've talked about this, I feel like quite a bit this season, if you're keeping up with my other recaps. We don't want to repeat the same thing if you have the opportunity to answer 2 onstage questions, but the distinction here with her answers is that yes, they involved the topic of mental health, but she did not word for word restate anything in both of the questions. And I think that is the important distinction. So when you take a look at both of their onstage questions, they're pretty phenomenal. It's amazing how Antonia was able to add in some branding of the organization into her answers. Somebody actually mentioned that when she was referring to glory, that was a reference to the new crown in Thailand, and that is smart, and that's the type of creative thinking I think nowadays you need at Miss Universe. So that very much impressed me. Now, Carla, great answers. She's very on brand. She does such a great job of communicating her advocacy. And here's where I feel like her advantage comes in. She looks so relaxed when she answers her onstage questions. And that is something that I just try to get that point across every single year. Just look at the difference between Arbany answering her question, I think Venezuela, and then also Dominican Republic. So I would say Arbany and Venezuela, when I was sitting in that crowd, I was like, honestly, it could go either way. I think that the stars aligned for Albany. I said that many times. I think that Albany made the most sense overall. And Venezuela, I feel like she kind of started out slow and then she accelerated through the competition and basically was catching up to Albany. But when it came down to that final moment, judges went with Albany, as we know, which is fine, but both women did an outstanding job. But Dominican Republic, who also great competitor, I feel like when she answered her onstage question, her facial expression didn't really move. She was quite serious, versus Albany went in there and she looked like she was having a little bit more fun. She wasn't as stressed out. That is a great quality of a Miss Universe, someone who can remain poised under pressure. And so that's what really impressed me about Carla's onstage answer. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it. So I feel like she's kind of edging out Antonia there slightly, but there's so much up in the air when it comes to an onstage question. We do not know how challenging the questions will be this year for the contestants, and that's all relative as well. But these two ladies are pretty equally matched when it comes down to every aspect of competition. Now I want to talk about some other considerations that judges might think about, or even the Miss Universe organization might think about. And these things aren't necessarily make or break, but it's kind of like stacking the chips in your favor. Kind of like the more pluses you have than minuses can help you in the bigger picture in the long run, especially when things are really tight. Let's talk about social media. This is wild to me. Before Antonia won Miss Universe Thailand, she had 600 and something thousand followers. Shortly after winning, she picked up more and got 700,000. Recently, she hit over 1 million followers on Instagram. Honestly, rightfully so. If you don't already follow her, her content is fire. Okay, her video clips, her reels are stunning. And I know it's not just her putting that stuff together because they are professionally shot. The clips that she has, the details in the comments, the photo shoots, the behind the scenes, all of it. All of it's there. And it's gotten much better than it was in months or years prior to her being Miss Universe Thailand. Infinitely better. Carla, on the other hand, has 100,000 subscribers. I don't know whether that speaks so much to her personal Instagram or whether it's more reflective of the culture surrounding pageantry in Puerto Rico versus in Thailand. So it's kind of interesting. Now, I'm not trying to say that social media is everything, but what I'm trying to say is many organizations now they're considering how a title holder manages her own social media before crowning her for their organization, because they're curious, well, how is she going to manage our social media accounts? We're giving her this huge platform. Well, what do we think that she's going to do with it? And essentially, ladies, your social media now, it is your resume for the future. And social media does not just tie into representing yourself and the brand, it very much is connected to representing sponsors. And now more and more social media platforms, what they're trying to do and what they're trying to drive are sales. So I think that that's where many pageants are going to start to go in the future, is they're going to start thinking about, okay, well, how can we start monetizing every single post of our title holder? And if you're already thinking about that as a title holder, then you're going to be 10 steps ahead of the competition. Now I want to show you an interesting photo comparison of the gowns that both countries chose for their title holders for finals night competitions. I think that when you take a look at these images, that you can tell that both countries are putting quite a bit of preparation into their title holders' wardrobe to ensure that they're wearing very unique pieces that are also competitive at Miss Universe. Honestly, when I look at the past few years for both countries, I feel like they're pretty equally competitive when it comes to dressing their contestants. Their ladies look incredible. I also want to talk about the most recent placements for each country. In 2022, Puerto Rico was top 5 and Thailand went unplaced. In 2021, Puerto Rico was top 10 and Thailand once again was unplaced. In 2020, both countries placed in the top 10. And in 2019, Puerto Rico was first runner-up and Thailand was top 5. There's a couple interesting things here. If you look at the most recent highest placements for Puerto Rico, both of those title holders from 2019 and 2022 competed in the United States at the Miss Florida USA pageant prior to winning their national title. So that's kind of an interesting coincidence that their highest placers actually came from the United States. Something that I often take into consideration and think a lot about when I create my prediction episodes and recaps is the recent history of an organization. So if you've been sticking around on my channel for a while, you will know that I created an episode prior to Harnaz winning. I actually created it for the 2020 year because I was watching India prior to that for the past several years, and I said I think India is going to have a Miss Universe win, and that's why I created that episode. Now I was 1 year early because in 2020 India placed in the top 5, and then in 2021 they won. I felt the exact same way about USA, which is why I created another episode, how Arbany or how Miss USA will win Miss Universe. And that was pretty spot on. So when I take that into consideration, when I think about this year's title holders, I think about how just like with India and just like with USA, years prior to those international wins, their ladies were placing consistently and quite high. So if we take that into consideration, we thought of it as a determining factor. In that case, it would look like Puerto Rico would edge out Thailand this year and they would finally get that Miss Universe win. It is a possibility, but things are a little bit more interesting than even that. To add another layer to all of this, let's remember that this year's Miss Universe competition is held in El Salvador, and that Anne encouraged contestants to work on their Spanish. To me, that says that the contestants may be interacting with a Spanish-speaking host, and that's why it could be an asset to them at the Miss Universe pageant, and that might be why Anne is sharing that. If that's the case, then Carla may have a great advantage at Miss Universe this year because she speaks Spanish. The other thing that makes these two specific contestants very interesting, and it's why I'm doing this comparison episode, is because Antonia was Miss Supranational and Carla was first runner-up at Miss Supranational. She was so close. She could have been a point away, a tenth of a point away, a judge away from also being Miss Supranational. So it is very interesting to see this crossover because there are some in pageantry who believe or speculate that if you have already captured another big international title, that if you come to the Miss Universe organization, that they will not pick you because they don't want another organization's international title holder. I've heard the exact same whispers when it comes to Miss USA. Often people will say that a former Miss America state title holder or national title holder doesn't have a chance at Miss USA, but Asia Branch proved them wrong when she won Miss USA in 2020. Prior to that, she had just competed at the Miss America pageant when Nia Franklin took home the title. In fact, you can see Asia behind Nia when she's getting crowned as Miss America. So it is something really interesting. I do feel like it is a bit of a superstition. I always hope that judges won't take that into consideration or that an organization won't, and that every contestant will always have a fair shot. But you can also look at all of this from a different angle if it were to come down to these top two contestants. And that is that when Anne took over ownership of the Miss Universe organization, she said that every 2 years that the pageant will be held in Thailand. Well, first year it was in Louisiana in the US, second, El Salvador. That means next year, I believe, the pageant will be in Thailand. So imagine if they were to crown Thailand this year, and then she would go right back home, and she would have a huge and a massive homecoming, and she would be the outgoing title holder the first time that Anne held a Miss Universe pageant in Thailand. Just think of the optics, like how actually amazing that would look. Like what better timing? So there are so many different ways to look at this and so many, I think, just perspectives to consider when it comes to organizations, judges, and frankly, business. Remember, Miss Universe is a business at the end of the day. And I do feel like considerations are taken when it comes to thinking about who we're crowning and how profitable and how popular is she going to be. What kind of a job is she going to be doing for the organization to grow the organization? I could go down a rabbit hole about the topics of pageantry all day, but I hope you enjoyed this comparison episode. If you'd like to see more like it, comment below. Let me know what you want to see on the channel. I'm always looking for new ideas for content. I greatly appreciate your support of the channel. I hope that you chose to subscribe and share this episode with a friend. That greatly helps me. I appreciate it so much, and it allows me to do what I love doing, which is delivering this type of content to you every week. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you very soon.